All right, I'm super excited for this interview because if you want to see what it takes to succeed, no matter what, this episode is for you. From starting businesses in pharmaceuticals or clothing, or being a motivational speaker across the world, or battling brain cancer, or selling a best selling book, How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. M. Curtis McCoy has seen it all. Curtis, welcome to the show, man.
Man, Matt, I appreciate that. I'm excited to be on your show.
Yeah, very excited to have you and talk about your journey, talk about success. Obviously, you have a lot to say about it. To start us off, how did your passion for entrepreneurship start? You started a lot of businesses. How did you take that leap to then become a business owner?
Well, so I did like a lot of entrepreneurs do, started my first business. I think I was probably 13 years old, picked up a used lawnmower at a yard sale and
Hmm.
tied it with a string to the back of the bicycle. But I figured out real early on that the way you dress, the way you present yourself has a huge part in the money you'll make. So I started out just trying to go mow lawns, dressed in my work clothes like I would as a little kid, and was having a hard time to even get anybody closed where they'd let me mow their lawn.
Yeah.
But I had an idea. I would ask my grandma to take me down to the thrift shop. We picked up got some pressed slacks and a little button up shirt and stuff. And so I'd go door to door, had this business, printed out some professional looking little flyers. I think I made them on like Microsoft Word or something,
Hmm.
and taking these around door to door and figured out letting somebody just presenting yourself as being more valuable helped out a lot. So made an absolute killing as a little kid doing doing the lawnmower thing. And so had some jobs throughout the years, went to college for avionics, aircraft electronics, but realized pretty early on that you could do a whole lot better and not be working for another man if you would, go out and chase your passion and those kind of things. So I launched when I got out of college. I graduated with an avionics degree. I was a number
Hmm.
one, highest, top graduate in the class there. And on the way home from my interview at Lockheed Martin, I'd got the number one job or the um, number one job offer. This has been years ago, right after the airline strikes.
Yeah.
But my job offer was for $15 an hour, or
Wow.
15.01 an hour for at Lockheed. And so I'm driving home thinking, I just wasted all this education and a whole lot of money on schooling. And I was driving home, and there was a sign on a McDonald's billboard that said now hiring assistant manager, full benefits, whatever, and $15 an hour plus starting pay. Thinking I'm not going to be a fry cook, but I could make just as much being an assistant manager at a fast food joint as
Hmm.
I could working at Lockheed Martin. So that's when I really started opening up, launching these companies in. I've owned companies in pharmaceuticals, telecommunications, had a Christian clothing company, quite a few different businesses that have done very well. And now I'm doing the speaking and a lot of that kind of stuff.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love the start with landscaping and cutting grass. That's how I got my start. Around the same age, I just went around the neighborhood with a lawnmower, and you made a great point about presentation because when I started, I couldn't drive. I mean, same with you. You're 13 years old and you're just pushing your lawnmower down the street, and sometimes you had to go pretty far to get to the job site. And what I found was over the years, when I had the money to buy better equipment, or I was as of age to go drive and get a car and drive to the site, it was so much more successful every single summer because I showed up. Next year, you have a new piece of equipment. Next year, you have more
Yep.
experience, but you have a truck to pull things with, and that applies with everything. I think it's a great lesson for anyone who needs a side hustle, but it shows you a lot about business because you have you're basically controlling how much you're making. You are the one based on your people skills, based on your skill with cutting the grass or doing that landscaping job, and just presenting yourself like you said. I mean, you separate yourself by creating those flyers, dressing nice, and it's the same thing for business. I think you would probably agree with me that you could take that with you with a lot of different or to a lot of different spaces in life.
I think that's a good thing for kids too. I mean, it's been 27, 28 years since I was running a lawnmower as a little kid, but um, there's such a good lesson in life, though, just to realize that the difference, seeing the income day to day
Yeah.
of if I show up in my work clothes versus showing up looking like a little businessman. I mean, I would triple my money
Hmm.
just by having the different outfits on. And so I've learned that a lot where, you show up just, I mean, even now, if you're still, you don't have to be an entrepreneur. If you're showing up for a job interview, if you're dressed a step above the way that
Hmm.
your interviewer step is dressed there, and you show up a few minutes early, And when the person walks in for the interview, you're sitting there already prepared, looking like you're there to interview them. You may or may not get the job, but if you do, I guarantee it's going to be a higher, you get a higher pay scale there than if you showed up a few minutes late with your shirt untucked. And
Exactly. Yeah, that's a great point.
not at all what I was planning to chat about on the podcast today, but those are some great questions.
Yeah. So you wrote the book How to Be Successful, Think Like a Leader. Success is a great question. How to, or I guess a great statement, how to be successful, because a lot of people are desiring success in life. That's how I started this podcast. That's why I'm continuing to do it. Try to help people find that definition for themselves. When you think of success, short word, what is your definition for success?
I would say now that it's freedom. It used to be chasing the dollar.
Mm,
I had, and I'm not sure if you haven't got a chance to read the book yet, but I survived a malignant glioblastoma brain tumor.
mm-hmm.
So your audience has probably noticed that I'm stumbling over my words a bit and stuff. I'm a motivational speaker. I've done all kinds of incredible things as far as business wise, but I'm still have a bit of a hard time with the speaking because of the brain cancer. I'd say don't let that hold you back.
Yeah.
With whatever's we all go through junk that kind of sucks in life. It's just whether or not you focus on it.
Yeah. Can you take us
Successful
through?
people keep going. And
Yeah. Can you take us through that time in your life when you were diagnosed with brain cancer and how you overcame that battle in your life?
so I had built a number of companies already. I had a company, a pharmaceutical company, where we were manufacturing bioidentical injectable research peptides, white label pharmaceuticals. We're in a laser clinic, medical laser clinic that we started up in Evergreen, Colorado. And, working with Denver Broncos cheerleaders, the Denver Nuggets dancers, IFBB pro bodybuilders. Uh, my friend Andy Hammond actually just recently passed away,
Yeah.
but he was an IFBB pro who they did the Disney Incredibles movie after. With him and his family would do like the
Mm-hmm.
spandex suit body paint thing with but he was that they were that family. Like, it's like the cartoon version was the real version of Andy and his family. Um, so I was going through all that, had a, just incredibly successful as a young guy. They're pretty fresh out of college, started having seizures, and pretty soon it's 7 to 10 seizures a week. But I was so busy, and I'd been diabetic since I was 27 months old.
Mm.
So we figured it was just a diabetic thing. But as I started having more and more seizures, pretty soon I was at the Denver Coliseum one day. I was the title sponsor for an MMA fight, and thousands of people packed in this Coliseum. Andy got up, tore off my company logo on his shirt,
Yep.
and so they're saying, go visit him, Curtis McCoy, over at this booth here. He's the title sponsor. Thanks for putting this on, Curtis. And as that's all going on, right after they announced me, I had a seizure, fell down, banging my face on the ground. So I'm bloodied up, and just pretty embarrassing deal to be, supposed to be the man there. And then now I'm laying on the floor having a
Wow.
seizure.
Yeah.
Um, just kind of had this train wreck going on with success, but also trying to figure out how to keep just going. I woke up one morning, half my body was paralyzed,
Mm.
and I mean, I could not, just everything looked kind of like a stroke victim. So just everything's kind of weird there with trying to get out of bed. Couldn't, half my body's not working. So I called my mom, got over, pulled my phone off the counter, called my mom, and I was trying to tell her, hey, I think I'm too low, had a seizure, whatever. And what came out was chicken, pituitary, waffle, phone chargers, these random words. So I'm like, no. So I'm trying to say the next thing is just a random string of words, and I could not get a sentence out. So she called 911. They hauled me off, had me try to write a note, and the same thing, hands not working good. I wrote this note, same random string of words. So the things that I was trying to say were not coming out,
Right.
that it was on paper or speaking. Took me to Denver, the Swedish Medical Center up in Denver, and diagnosed me with the malignant glioblastoma brain tumor. Said I had 60 to 90 days to live, absolutely zero chance of survival. So went to Tijuana, Mexico, and did some treatment there that was not approved in the US. I'm still around today.
Yeah, here you are. That's a great story. Very unfortunate that you had to go through that, but very inspiring that you battled it, overcame, and now you're living an impactful life. How did that impact your businesses at the time?
I lost absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I went from being super successful and stuff, I could send out a text to 600 people in the middle, be 9 o'clock at night. I'd send out a text to 600 people, and a couple dozen folks that show up at, whether it was at, an after party, an MMA event, whatever it was, because they knew that I had free tickets, and
Mm-hmm.
people follow success, they follow money.
Yep.
So I had 600 people who I thought were friends, all the bodybuilding folks, fitness models, all kinds of, just everybody. I'm going, hey guys, we're going over here. And it was going to have the crew following.
Yeah.
And I sent out that same text to the same group. I sent out a text to that same group of folks when I was diagnosed with brain cancer, going, hey guys, I'm losing all the companies. We were starting the Warrior Classic bodybuilding show. It was me and another business partner putting on, and going, hey, I've lost absolutely everything. I'm going to end up moving back in with my parents to sleep on their floor in a, 100-year-old log cabin in the middle of nowhere. And, sent out that text, and not a single person, my parents showed up, but not a single person out of all those hundreds of friends showed up. And I had a couple of folks that even responded saying, oh man, sorry to hear that, kind of a thing. But it was a big blessing though, because, now that I've built back, launched additional companies, become successful again, it's good to kind of help you keep that filter and realize that, don't shy away from people or get discouraged by people not being there for you or whatever, but just realize people typically want what's best for them. And I don't know if you or I would want to go hang out with the guy that was, if you thought he was the successful bodybuilder guy, and then now you're going, well, the guy's drooling on himself and can't get a sentence out. I'm not sure if that's probably not the guy you'd want to go hang out with all the time. Either way,
But even then, like from your point of view, it shows you who the real people are. I mean,
yep,
granted, yeah, they might not say like, "Oh, I really want to hang out with this person," but the lack of support. There's no saying, "What can I do for you? How can I help?" But previously, they're trying to ride the coattails and
yep,
stack on your success because it was handed to them. It was trying to just make sure that they were getting what you were getting at the same time. And
yep.
very unfortunate. I can't say I'm not surprised. I think that's a trait that a lot of humans in our society have, and it's very unfortunate. But I think what you could take away from that is that you just got to keep the real people around you. And it's an
Yep.
unfortunate circumstance to have that lesson, but for anyone listening to this, you can just see that people don't always have the best intentions for you. People might be using you for different ways, and you just got to look at these people and see, are they actually here to support me, or are they just trying to take away from me and never fuel me up actually.
But you know what? I really don't. That's not really how I end up looking at it,
Hmm.
because I understand there's people now around that see, I pull up in the BMW, or I've got, whatever, and people see the success again. I've got a lot of friends now that probably wouldn't be around if there was if I had another catastrophic failure or whatever.
Right.
But let me tell you a story about I've had two good buddies lately these guys are massively successful. Daniel Gomez inspires. He hosts the Sticker Shock Speaking Academy, speaking all over the world, teaching other people to speak and become professional speakers. Daniel is massively successful. He's crushing it in business. And when we were talking, I reached out to him I own another company called Newswire. But I reached out to Daniel saying it, I'd like to help promote it or whatever. And so promoted this last event, and I showed up, and so he had me scheduled as a keynote speaker.
Hmm.
And Daniel is, this massively successful guy. Everything's going great. He's just a good dude too, though. So I'm scheduled to speak out in San Antonio at his event. Went out there, had everything's going great. I'd been working on a speech for like 6 weeks, just make sure everything is perfect. The slides are dialed in. It's going to just crush it. And the morning before I was scheduled to speak, like just right before, half an hour or so before, I had a seizure, banged my head on the ground. So I've got a back of my head split, blood in my hair and stuff. And the sidewalk is wet. So I've got, there's water on the back of my suit, and I'm just kind of reliving those days back with
Yeah.
back with the events, thinking, okay, I'm losing everything again because of this one stupid seizure.
Sure.
So I get in there and paramedics are showing up and I am furious. I'm telling the hotel staff who's calling the paramedics, we called 911. I said, hey, tell them do not come. Well, they can't go back. They just check you out real quick. Like, okay, check me out in the back room or something, but do not come to this event and embarrass me with, 911 with paramedics trying to draw blood and everything. Um, so I'm just furious and feeling like an idiot. And so it comes time for me to speak. And this whole time I'm sitting there with this imposter syndrome type of a feeling, thinking
Mm.
everybody's going to know that I just had a seizure. They're going to, wonder why they should be listening to me or whatever. I got up there, and when it was time to speak, Daniel come up on stage. He said, "No, hey Curtis, hey, do you mind if I pray over you real quick?" Actually, he came up after. I got up, did the speech, just absolutely crushed it. I was actually talking about a kid that had decided not to commit suicide after calling me,
Wow.
just Googling motivational speakers or whatever, called me to leave basically like a suicide voicemail.
Mm.
And as we were talking, he decided not to. So I sent him a copy of the book, and he's
So you
still around
answered that
today.
call.
Yeah. So I try
That's
to answer
amazing.
calls any time of the day.
Yeah.
But so I get up and speak, got done. I'm thinking, and I crushed it for
Yeah.
feeling like an idiot. And I go to walk off the stage, and Daniel's like, hey, hold on, stay up there for a minute. He come up there, brought another pastor, another preacher friend. He said, Curtis, do you mind if I share what happened earlier real quick? I'm thinking, oh, of course I don't want you to share that, but like, cool, Daniel's a good guy. I hope it doesn't make me look stupid. And he said, for those of you who don't know, Curtis has got diabetes, survived brain cancer, got some serious issues he's dealing with. And this morning before the stage, he had a big seizure. The paramedics just left checking him out. And he's still up here. Don't use this as an excuse not to chase your dreams. Like, man, that's pretty good information or good inspirational message. And then he brought these buddies up on stage and said, hey, Curtis, is it okay if I pray with you? So these guys had this prayer. It's just an incredible thing where I'm expecting most event hosts would have gone, okay, yeah, let's just kind of brush it under the rug and hope that nobody finds out so it
Mm.
doesn't screw up my event. But Daniel's going, hey, this is my friend, this is my brother in Christ. And so that was a pretty awesome deal. And then Ken Jocelyn is another one. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Ken, but he hosts the GSD Create Conference.
Mm.
Again, massively successful. He's doing events with Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
All these, John Maxwell, and he's crushing it as well. And Ken is one that, back when I was getting started promoting events with him and stuff, it's going, listen, I am still, I just had hundreds of thousands of dollars in 1 month in medical bills.
Mm.
I am flat broke. I can't, back when we were getting started there,
Yeah.
I'm broke. I can't afford your courses. I can't afford the $10,000 a ticket seats that you're offering. He's like, hey, you know what, brother? Hey, you're helping me out. Just come on, we'll take care of it. And it's another thing. He's calling, and we had a text in this morning. Like, this is a guy that is flying all over the globe doing these speaking events, $50,000 a pop. And he's going, so it's just a cool thing to see like that, where both of these guys have seen me at the bottom, and
Sure.
now I'm coming back, and they're going to be on the team
Yeah.
no matter what, because I saw, they saw what was going on, and I saw how they would react when everything fell apart, and they're still there and
Yeah.
still helping. So
Those are the people to keep around for sure.
yep,
Yeah. That's great. Great lesson there.
you guys put in your inner circle.
Yeah, exactly. So you go through um, brain cancer. You have episodes after, and you're still a motivational speaker. You're still doing it. You're doing this podcast episode right now. You're meeting great people around you. You're a best-selling author. What made you keep going? Because the reality is, a lot of people out there, if they're faced with that difficulty, even if they overcome it, they're probably calling up McDonald's, that billboard you saw, and saying, hey, I want that manager job, because they think that they don't have a purpose in life anymore. They don't know what direction to take. But
Yeah.
you, even after sleeping on the floor, you found your purpose, maybe even a bigger purpose than you had earlier in life, and you overcame everything. What drove you, or what fueled you to make that decision?
And I also I don't want to be looking down at all on people that are working at McDonald's. And I mean,
Exactly. Yeah.
folks make good
Yeah.
money. And, um, so I don't want to act like, discredit that. The people who choose to work a good job, work hard, show up on time, I think those folks are awesome, and we have to have them to keep
Right.
the economy running and everything. But I think for me, I've always been, I grew up in a real abusive household and just had all kinds of, I mean, to the point of my dad handed me a loaded 357 Magnum pistol and told me to do the world a favor after telling me that I was a waste of skin, a waste of oxygen, these kind of things, beating on me for hours. And, um, but a lot of that is just kind of discovering who you were meant to be. So for me, I love uplifting and inspiring people. And even though I've got some of the speech issues now after the brain cancer, I still love connecting with folks. I love help people to reach their goals. So that's a big thing where I got into the business coaching and speaking. It's just, I feel like that's my calling. So I wouldn't recommend anybody become a motivational speaker or a personal development author if you don't feel like that's what you're supposed to do.
Right.
If you're supposed to be a truck driver, be the best truck driver, get those deliveries out there, get the stuff done that needs to be done. And I think just living in your calling is super important. For
Yeah,
me, that's uplifting and inspiring people and helping them to live their best life.
that's awesome. So you're an author now, but you've mentioned before in other interviews that you read a lot of books. You love reading, you love learning. What is maybe let's get a book recommendation from you that helped you succeed in life.
I got a stack. So this is one of them here. I've read a couple dozen times. If you
Nice.
can't see it, it's absolutely shredded, but it's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. And I actually got that book. Do you have time for a quick story on that?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I mentioned being, growing up in an abusive household and stuff. Um, I realized really early on that I did not want to be the same type of a person that my dad was. I didn't want to be that type of a man, that type of a husband, that type of a father. And, as I'm getting beat on, getting just, I mean, I had no sense of self worth. And I kind of made a resolution to myself as a young kid, about 13, 14 years old, that I was never going to have a girlfriend. I was never going to get married. I thought a lot that maybe I just do what my dad said and kill myself, because what value can I have to the world if my own dad was saying, you're a waste of skin, you're a waste of oxygen? So I spent a lot of years wanting to make sure that I wasn't that kind of a guy. And we were up in Denver one time, and my dad took us to Baskin Robbins ice cream. Stopped in. We're gonna, all the kids share a cone or whatever. We got in there, and there's this big old, just a massive bodybuilder guy. Guy's probably 280. Black guy sitting there with a beautiful blonde girl. And my dad walked up and looked over at him at the table as we walked by, and he said, "Somewhere a white mother is crying," and then
Wow.
walked on by the counter there. And I'm looking at this guy. My dad's a big, strong dude,
Yeah.
6'2", just a big dude. But I'm looking, thinking, this is the first guy I ever saw that I think could probably crush my dad.
Yeah.
So I'm just praying, I hope this guy gets up and just
Mm-hmm.
caves my dad's head, and I hope he kills him. And
Mm.
and I watched this guy, and he just kind of, you could tell it kind of hurt his feelings, but he's like, looked almost as if like a feeling of sympathy for my dad, like, sorry you feel like that, and just kind of shook his head down. And his girlfriend, you could tell she wasn't sure what was going on, but she put his hand on his shoulder there. And I was just looking at that guy thinking, that's the man that I want to be. I was expecting a fight. I was expecting the guy that
Yeah.
was bigger and stronger to be able to jump up and crush my dad. And so as I'm watching this, I'm just like, I've got to figure out how to be more like that guy. And obviously I couldn't have walked off with my dad standing there and talked to this guy, this black guy in front of my dad who's racist. Um, but I got back and I started running. I'd take off during school lunch sometimes, and we got $1.75 a day for school lunch.
Mm-hmm.
I and I could spend a quarter or spend 25 cents on a cup of Jello, save $1.50. So I started putting that aside every day, and I would sneak off in the middle of the lunch break and run to the local used bookstore. And this is actually one of those first books that I bought,
Wow.
was How to Win Friends and Influence People. I got down there just asking them, how do I couldn't tell anybody what was going on with my dad, but it was just asking them, how do I become a better person? How do I not hate myself? How do I make people like me? You know, so they told me, well, check out this How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's a great book. Read that a couple dozen times, just read it over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And so then pretty soon I was going, okay, this actually works. I'm starting to make some friends. It was working good. So I'd sneak out again, run down to the used bookstore and Okay, what do you have on how to talk to people? Okay, here's a book on speaking. Here's a book on management. On so as a little kid, I'm reading, typically about 6 books a month on leadership, sales, personal development, marketing, different things that I would have had no reason to read if I wasn't trying to figure out how to not be the example that I was growing up with.
That's an amazing story. I love that.
Yeah.
I had a similar experience to that book. So, or I guess similar takeaway from that book. It's helped me a lot. It was one of the first books I read back when I started reading books more like 3 or 4 years ago. The first book I read, not sure if you're familiar with it, but it's The Secret of the Millionaire Mind by T. Harv Eker, all
Yep.
about money. And it was good. I mean, it was an enjoyable read. It taught you how to make money, how to manage money. And that being the first personal development book that I read, I was like, oh, I like this. It inspires you, fuels you up, like you're ready to go. I'm like, now I'm just on Amazon just searching like money books. I just want to
Yeah.
like find out how to make money. And I'm starting ordering books, like fitness books, whatever it is, just to see like how to get better, like monetarily or something tangible. And my dad pulled me aside and he's like, hey, I like that you're reading, but if I were to give you one recommendation, it's How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I listened to that title and I was like, what does that even mean? How to win friends and influence people? Like that's not going to make me money. That's not going to get me better. Like I just kind of put it off. A couple weeks later, he persisted. He said, "Hey, here's my copy. Please read it if you have time." So I finally read it, got around to it, and at this point, I was buying more books than I can read. I was just always
Yeah.
buying them, just building the stack up, and I moved that one to the top. And I'm like, I'll give it a chance. And honestly, Curtis, it showed you so many valuable lessons in life, and your example is perfect because it shows you most people in life they're very reactionary. They can't control their emotions. But that book, I mean, there's a few other, but Dale Carnegie, he wrote that book decades ago,
Yeah.
long, long time ago, and the practices are still true today. And those books are so important because there's a lot of books that we all read that they are financial, they're mindset, and they're all trend based. I mean, you saw last year a lot of people making a ton of money in cryptocurrency. Now they're not doing so well. But you know, a lot of things in the market, I should say, are very trend based. But a thing like How to Win Friends and Influence People, I would say if everybody in the world were to read one book for the rest of their life, just one book, it would be that book for sure.
Yep. Yeah. I think it was a great one. That's you mentioned the people writing books, uh, based on trends, or there's a lot of authors who have got very, they've done very well selling books on how to be successful, as an
Mm-hmm.
example. And you look back at their history, and they have not built successful companies. They haven't,
That's true.
they're a good writer, and they've figured out the SEO and hired a good person to make their covers, so they're selling a bunch of books. But that was one of the things writing my book. It took me over 4 years to get the thing published. That was the first book I wrote, but the fourth one that I published,
Mm-hmm.
because I interviewed literally hundreds of people, and well, over 100 people, and everywhere from with hundreds of interviews curated down to the few that were like, these are really the ones that had the good insights that I think my audience would like to hear from. But so rather than interviewing it just based on, I've built a cosmetic medical laser clinic, a pharmaceutical company, a telecommunications company, these different businesses, I could write a book on success about here's what I did to become
Yeah.
successful. But that really doesn't, nobody can follow in somebody else's footsteps and do exactly what they did. So what I did instead was I interviewed people like the inventor of the MP3 player, uh,
Mm.
Navy SEAL team sniper Jeff Wobig,
Mm-hmm.
a successful church leader who just crushing it business, who also owns a private hospital. So the guy's doing okay there. Contrast that with a ex-convict who was in prison. He's got out and he's turned his life around, doing good stuff now. Uh, two stories of two different homeless guys. One who I met when he was cussing me out. I was driving in my Jaguar there, and he cussed me out, called me a rich effing prick. And
Mm.
I was trying to help him.
Yeah.
Um, Contrasted with another guy I met after he had been homeless years earlier. Met him when he's driving a custom twin turbo Ferrari. Guy was
Wow.
crushing it now. So
Wow.
contrast those two stories of the different homeless guys with, what are their insights on success. The founder of Venture Advocates and FranchiseSellers.com. So I mean, a lot of guys that are just crushing it in life and business. But I've got those all curated down with the same list of questions, so you can see. The title is How to Be Successful. Think like a leader. So it's literally, how do leaders think? What are their insights on life and leadership and success and business? And so that was I didn't create the book to make any money off of it.
Hmm.
We're doing that when, I was running my telecommunications company and did not need the money. I was just doing it to just get the insight out there, try to
Yeah.
help people think better.
Yeah, I
So
love
that's
that writing style. It's a similar approach to this podcast. I mean, that's why I'm having this
exactly.
conversation with you, because about success, like I don't have all the experience in the world, but I have opinions. I have things that I'm trying right now, and I could put together 100 episodes myself about here's what I think success is, but that doesn't matter. I mean, if that doesn't resonate with anyone, they're not going to listen to it. But having different people on to talk about success, like yourself with the book, writing different chapters with different people, it shows you different perspectives, how to become successful in different areas. And maybe you want to try something new that you've never even considered before because you see that it works. You see that there are people out there that have done this. So I applaud you for having that style, because a lot of people, like you said, they want to talk about stuff and they might not even be doing it. They might not be practicing it, but it's so much more beneficial in life. If you want to be successful, look what other people are doing. Talk to them, ask them, and maybe you never even implement it yourself, but just have the awareness, just have the lesson of learning that, hey, there are other people doing way different things and they're successful in their own way. I'm going to be successful in my own way,
Yep.
but we're going to work together.
And if you're an author trying to put together a book that's going to make good money, this is not the way to do it.
Hmm.
Because, like I said, when you're trying to meet with over 100 different people over a span of 4 years,
Yeah.
I'm closer to 200 people over a span of 4 years. So that means a lot of travel, going, buying lunches, buying, sitting there at a coffee shop, whatever. But there's a lot of cost associated with that.
Hmm.
And then curating that down, if you've got hundreds of interviews and you've got to curate that down to 8, 10, 12 chapters of,
Right.
different interviews, you got to figure out who are the best ones, make sure that that's going to work.
Yeah.
So if you're taking 4 years and spending all this time trying to get in contact with these different folks to interview them, you're not going to make a lot of money on the book. Even when we launched it, we were spending $10,000 a month on Amazon ads
Mm.
to get the word out there, make sure it was a bestseller. It's available now in, and Amazon, Barnes and Noble, every major book retailer, libraries. It was a number one bestseller globally in 9 separate categories on
Wow.
Amazon.
Yeah.
So it's done well, but I've lost a ton of money on the book, but it's helped with the personal branding. So,
Yep.
um, but I think if you're planning on writing a book, a good quality book where you've curated interviews like that, don't expect that to make you rich. It's probably gonna eat a whole bunch of your marketing dollars there. But if you're
Yep.
using that as a marketing tool, it'll help out with building your personal brand.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'm really excited to read it. I'm gonna link it in the show notes for everyone to enjoy. But it's a great lesson how to be successful, how to think like a leader. So super excited for that. Learn from other people as well, and learn about some different stories. Curtis, you've learned a lot of lessons in life. You've gone through a lot, started multiple different businesses. What is one lesson that you've learned in life that you would recommend other people start to take on in their life?
So I'd say one of the biggest things, I talked a little bit about myself growing up in an abusive household, surviving brain cancer, being diabetic, the seizures, all these kind of things. And a lot of folks will focus just on, well, I was abused as a kid, so I'm going to be the same as my dad. I'm going to be the same
Yeah.
kind of um, or, well, I'm a cancer survivor, so that's why I'm not doing anything. And I'm not, I mean, cancer sucks, but winners focus on where they're going and the process, focus on where they're headed. Winners focus on where they're headed. Losers, or just average folks, focus on where they came from or the struggles that they've had, and yet let that be an excuse for why they're not successful today.
Yeah, I like that. And I think it's a great point. Winners are focused on where they're going, but I think a lot of people's issues out there is they don't know where to go. They don't have that direction in life. They don't know what their purpose is going to be or what they want to pursue. And I think a lot of people, the age demographic of this podcast, that's where a lot of people are standing right now. They might be in college, they might be out of college, and they're just thinking, I really don't know what I want. Like maybe I'm trying things, but I don't have the answers right now. And a thing that I like to say is own your path. Find your path and stay on it and just have that tunnel vision. Don't worry about what other people are doing. focus on getting to your destination. That it doesn't have to be as quickly as possible, but as efficiently as possible, as successfully as possible. So, what advice do you have for someone to find their path in life and find what fuels them?
So this is one thing that I would have given anything 25 years ago to know. But now I surround myself with coaches and leaders and inspiring people, and not only reading the books. I mean, books are huge. Podcasts and YouTube didn't exist when I was getting started, but that's the one thing, is I would absolutely try to get yourself surrounded with these leaders.
Hmm.
Get a coach.
Yeah.
I mean, coaches are expensive. I mean, I do coaching as well, and it's probably not in a lot of your listeners, I mean, probably not in some of your listeners' budget, I'd say. But if you can get a coach, it doesn't have to be me. Get a coach of anybody who you look up to, you respect, you admire, somebody who's done the things that you want to do. So that's another thing. Coaches are a dime a dozen now.
Hmm.
You can find. I mean, there's courses. I bought a course the other day. Cost $7 to get certified as a NLP coach.
Wow.
So, so now I've got the little sticker that that says I'm a coach. But so anybody can get on and get, for a $7 course, can become a certified coach. But that doesn't mean that they know what they're talking about.
Right.
You can go through all these kind of things, but look at the guy. If you're trying to hire somebody as a coach, look at their history, see if they've actually done the things that you want them to teach you how to do. If they haven't achieved it, they're not going to be able to teach it as well.
100%. What gets you out of bed in the morning? What keeps you motivated and disciplined day to day?
So these podcasts are one of my favorite things. I absolutely love connecting with folks and just
Hmm.
being able to not only connect, but also inspire and uplift. And when I've heard this deal in Atlanta, or in San Antonio recently, I had planned for 6 weeks to give this speech. Super excited about, I had everything planned out. It's going to be great. Had my slides, and a kid started texting me the day before I was scheduled to go live. I'm sitting in the conference, and he started texting pictures, and he had, I'm not reading them all because I'm in the middle of a business conference, but he's taking pictures, and it's him out holding my book on his balcony. And this is the same guy that on January 14th had called in the process of committing suicide. So he'd taken a bunch of pills. He was planning on finishing the lotto, and Googled motivational speakers, trying to call and just leave a kind of a going away message with a random stranger,
Yeah.
just saying, "This is why I failed in life. This is why I'm killing myself." And when he called, I answered the phone. I jumped up. It was like 2:38 in the morning. Jumped up. This is Curtis Boy. Thanks for calling. Um, so he's stuttering, trying to figure out how to. He wasn't expecting to talk to anybody, but we talked for over 45 minutes,
Wow.
and he's sharing about the abuse that he'd gone through as a kid. His girl had just taken off, cheated on him or whatever. Just had a mess going on there, but feeling like he's going, "I'm a loser. I'm not worth anything. Nobody cares about me. Nobody loves me." So I shared with this guy. That was when I kind of first started talking about the story about the abuse and stuff that I had gone through. Going, and that sucks. Can I tell you where I came from? How did you find me? Well, I searched for best motivational speakers, whatever. And okay, so now I was the one that ranked on the top of your search, right? Yeah. Let me tell you where I came from. Like, I grew up in
Mm.
an abusive household. My dad beating on me for hours, handing me a loaded pistol, telling me to kill myself. I had seizures, had a seizure, the same stories I told you about
Yeah.
the seizures and stuff. I'm like, so I had some stuff too that's really, makes you doubt whether you're worth anything, including when your dad's telling you you're a waste of oxygen. That's supposed to be a guy that loves you, cares about you, wants you to
Hmm.
do, good life.
Absolutely.
When he's telling you that, it's real hard to feel like you're not exactly the loser that he says you are. But here's where I'm at now. So I was talking about, I've got these different speeches, these different things. And that kid, we've kept in contact a little bit, but before my speech in San Antonio, that morning before he's texting, or I mean, the day before he's texting these pictures and his new personal identity, saying, "Well, I'm a leader. I surround myself with good people. I'm positive. I'm uplifting. I'm inspiring. I'm doing good things. I'm going to good places." So he had this new identity that he'd written out. And so I ended up, I threw away my whole speech that I'd spent weeks writing. And I was talking about, listen, we're all going through stuff. We're all going through, we've all had terrible backgrounds, terrible stuff that we look down on ourselves for. Maybe you spent time in jail. Maybe you were a drug addict, whatever it is, but stop focusing on that crap and focus on where you're going now.
Yeah.
And so that was my biggest thing. now is being able to see people that's the fourth guy that's reached out, either trying to decide whether or not to, or in the process of killing himself.
Mm.
And so I'm going, when four people have decided not to commit suicide because of whether it's my books or speaking engagements or whatever. I mean, if it was one person ever, that's worth everything I
Right.
put into it.
Yeah. That had to be an amazing feeling getting that story about that transformation. That's awesome. And I love hearing stories about this and reading about people like yourself that have gone through this in life and overcome it and find your passion, because the reality is a lot of people, I mean, myself included, I haven't had any issues like that in my life. But a lot of people, we focus on the negative too often. We focus on our stress and work,
Somebody
all these,
scratched my car, my
yeah,
life's
yeah,
over.
exactly. All these reasons to say, oh, I can't do this anymore because a call didn't go right. Let's say this podcast just went downhill. I'd be like, oh man, I just got to get rid of the podcast. No, like when you see what other people are capable of and what other people have overcome in their life, it's inspiring and showing you that there really are no excuses. There are no excuses for yourself. And yes, I don't want to discredit anything that anybody's going through. Everybody has their own stuff. Someone introduced me to the word sonder recently. The idea that everybody in life is going through something that you just don't see yourself. And I think it's a great message because we all have something, but there are people that have done it before. There are people that have overcome it. And sometimes you just need to talk to them. You need to read their books. You need to listen to them speak on a podcast, on a YouTube video to see that it's possible, that you just need to put one step in front of the other and always just continue to stack wins, because things are going to get difficult no matter what. But successful people, like, success isn't easy. Everybody would be successful if it was easy, but the best ones are going to prevail, and it's all part of the journey.
Love it.
Yeah, thank you. Can you, to wrap us up, or actually first, before my last question, where can everybody find you on Instagram, your show on Amazon Fire TV, everything that you want people to be directed to after this podcast?
Okay. So there's a few ways. The easiest way, I'm featured on the Google Knowledge Panel. So just Google M period Curtis McCoy and you'll find me there. You can go to mcurtismccoy.com. I'm available on pretty much every social platform under M Curtis McCoy. Um, so it's pretty easy to find there. You can also, for a short list of all the profiles that I'm active on, if you go to mcm.team, so no.com after it, just mcm.team, that'll have all the profiles as well as the books and those kind of things. My most recent book was under how the number two be successful.com, or you can just find how to be successful on Amazon. And my Amazon Fire TV link, you have to have a TV that's Amazon Fire TV enabled. But if you do, this show is called Success, Motivation, and Inspiration.
Awesome.
I am
Thank you so
Chris
much for
McCoy.
sharing that. Awesome. Last question for you. Can you provide one piece of advice that our listeners can take with them today to get closer to living a successful life?
So I think the biggest thing, like you were talking about finding your identity, this is my next book is on finding your personal identity, on becoming who you're meant to be. But if I could put something on a billboard, it would be that you were created in the image of the God who created the entire universe.
Mm,
He loves you. He created everything, and he didn't create the rock or the tree or the frog or the camel in his image. He created you. And
mm,
so by default, you're amazing. You're built for great things. So no matter what people are telling you, if you've got some loser, whether it's a parent, a boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, somebody that's ragging on you and making you not feel good, if it's friends, you were created to be incredible. So stop listening to people who really don't, their opinion really should not matter. And just start seeing yourself as what you were created to be. You're amazing.
awesome. What a great message. M. Curtis McCoy, thank you so much for joining us today, dropping some value, sharing some insight into your life and how we can get closer to being successful. So thank you so much for your time and all the value.
Appreciate it, man. You're a good dude. That was a phenomenal podcast.
Thank you.
Questions are awesome.
Thank you.